more. More. More.
off with your people. Get high, we don't know. I see the beauty in the little things. Hear the music when the wind blows. Turn these moments into memories. Don't overthink it, keep it simple. Spread love like a miracle.
Here and now, I'ma say it real loud. It's a new day, another spring gone round. Look around, we alive right now. Stacking up big love till it's over. Get down if you wanna get down. It's a new day, another spring gone round. Here for now, we alive right now. Stacking up big love till it's over.
Love is patient, love is kind, love is sweet, love is hatred. Love is mine to the top, let's get wasted. Through the night, start a fire in our heart, just a spark, let them know who we are. I'm a light in the dark, baby, I will never part from you. Million miles away, I am never far from you. Out of thin air, baby, I'll be there. Come and test me, I'll show you who I be. Had to run it back twice, cause the vibes was right. Making it run until it's done. Baby, keep on living, love will change your life. Open it up, feeling the love, feeling the love, feeling the love.
Here and now, I'ma say it real loud. It's a new day, another spring gone round. Look around, we alive right now. Stacking up big love till it's over. Get down if you wanna get down. It's a new day, another spring gone round. Here for now, we alive right now. Stacking up big love till it's over. We've been stacking on love. We've been stacking on love. Stacking up big love till it's over. We've been stacking on love. We've been stacking on love. Stacking up big love till it's over.
My name is Harsha. I'm the director for this event, and we're hosting ACM Hacktoberfest 2020. Excited to say that we're now live presenting our kickoff. We have plenty of speakers on the call right now who will be talking you through the various aspects of Hacktoberfest and what's super awesome about it. Towards the end of our kickoff, we also have a special introduction from our guest speaker. She'll be able to talk a little bit about open source, and then soon you'll have a special chance to do a Q&A session with her as well. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So, welcome. This is UT Dallas's largest celebration of open source, hosted by ACM UTD and featuring our keynote speaker, Rocio Montez. This event has been something that we've been planning, and it's been in the pipeline for like more than a month at this point. If you look at our schedule, we have over 37 fantastic events planned throughout the day from 9 a.m. all the way to 9 p.m. So most of those are still coming up. We're going to go over our schedule in a little bit, so stay tuned for that. And then in terms of just open source, we have so many events and workshops that are focused on teaching you to be able to contribute to open source, tips and strategies on how to start finding repositories, as well as several guided workshops to teach you the necessary skills for them. So stay tuned to hear about them as well. Now, before we get started with our whole presentation, I do want to thank you to all of our partners who are there in helping us make this event possible. So I'm going to list out all of these student organizations here, but we have Developer Student Clubs, OSTEM, AIS, UXUTD, CSG, Blockchain, WESIS, Girls Who Code, Women Who Compute, SAS, IEEE, SWE, and Women Mentoring Women. These are some of the finest student organizations here at UTD, and nearly every single one of them is hosting an event during Hacktoberfest today. So definitely stay tuned, check out our schedule. All of their events are on there, and join in, learn something new, pick up a brand new skill, and let's have a fun time, guys. So what really is Hacktoberfest, though? That's something that we really want to get into today. And Hacktoberfest, really, it's this program that DigitalOcean, Intel, and Dev combined together. They run during the month of October. It's an event that promotes open source contributions. It promotes development. It really promotes like getting people to contribute together as part of a whole community instead of just being individual contributors to their own repositories. So we're here continuing to enrich and grow that spirit in the name of Hacktoberfest here through our event by encouraging the same things.
Muted.
So the first question that comes to mind for many people is, what is open source development? So open source development is a development philosophy that focuses on community-built projects and contributions. What does that mean? Traditionally, a lot of software is written by big companies specific for their use cases. But open source development tries to democratize software development by having entire communities of people build software. And the great part about this is any contributions that are made to a project are proposed by a community, and those contributions are incorporated. So a lot of big companies, for example, they will often open source their projects so that they can have contributions from outside people improve their projects. Like the JavaScript framework React, for example, is an open source project built by Facebook, but because it's open source, everyone around the world is able to contribute to the project and guide its development.
But why open source? Contributing to open source software is not only a good way to share your skill in a particular language or tech stack, it can also be a rewarding practice to share your knowledge and collaborate with the developer community. Whether you're new to development, a student, or a long time contributor, you can help drive the growth of a lot of projects and make positive impact on the ever growing community. As Willie said, a lot of the famous technologies that we have today, like React, TensorFlow, Kubernetes, and Python, among many others, are actually open sourced and have over 1,000 people who contributed to the growth of this. If open source wouldn't have been a thing, we wouldn't have a lot of technology that we have right now. Events like Hacktoberfest want to encourage more open source activity and introduce open source to beginners by providing them resources and connecting them to a community of people who want to learn and grow together. Participating in Hacktoberfest would not only teach you how to write code in a new language or framework, but also how to read, test, review, and write code in such a way that it works perfectly with pre existing code.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Willie and Saloni. Like, those were some great descriptions about the importance of open source. So now, finally, we get to it. Hacktoberfest presented by ACM UTD. What really is going to go into this event? Let's dive a little bit deeper into that. You're going to leave today with an amazing knowledge of development and open source. Every single one of our events have been curated to ensure that you have the best time possible and you leave having learned something you didn't know before. And of course, don't forget, there's plenty of opportunities for swag and prizes as well. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? How do you qualify for swag? Step 1, you need to go through these things. Make a GitHub account. Sign up at hacktoberfest.digitalocean.com, and they will ship the swag directly to you once you have completed your 4 open source pull requests. You can always track your progress on their site. Remember that this sign up is different from the one you completed for registering with us. Registering with us allows us to keep track of your information and know who's getting points. But registering for swag happens directly through DigitalOcean, and they'll be the ones who will be sending it directly to you guys. So, especially for this event, we have a really, really great leaderboard system set up. So, as you guys are attending events throughout the day, every single one of you guys has a chance to win a lot of really fancy prizes from us. And the way this happens is through continuous raffles throughout the day. So, as you attend events, as you attend workshops, as you participate in contests on Discord, as you post about us on social media, you will continue to start gathering points. And you can view all your points at the link displayed over here, hacktoberfest.acmutd.co/leaderboard. And every single person has a chance to win something. The more events you attend, the more points you gain, and therefore the higher your chances of winning. Your top 10 people for here will get a chance to win something even more exclusive, ranging from a Raspberry Pi to a Fire Stick to Alexa Dots and so many other things as well. So I highly recommend everyone to attend as many events as possible and get as many points as you guys can.
Okay, there we go. We hope you're as excited as we are. We will be having 37 different events across 3 different tracks. The ACM track will include the 5 core workshops and some great panels. The student organizations track will have talks on a variety of topics from other UTD student orgs. And last but not least, the community track includes social and fun events. We have at least 2 events going on at the same time for the majority of the day, so feel free to pick and choose which events you'd like to attend at any given time. Now we'll be going over some of the events briefly. You can view the full schedule anytime at hacktoberfest.acm.co, and we'll be sending out Discord announcements before each event. So for the first track, following her keynote talk, our keynote speaker will be holding a Q&A and Open Source 101 to bring any questions you may have. Then we'll be having a Women in Tech panel. Female student leaders on campus will talk about their experiences and challenges. Our first workshop will start at 11:30 and show you how to make your own personal website and have it deployed courtesy of ACM. Our next workshop, Reactionary Business, will guide you in making a virtual business card. Next will be a panel of revolutionary ACM alumni talking about how they transitioned from college to the workforce and about career development. We'll also be having a lightning talk about the MLH Fellowship, a fellowship focused on contributing to open source from a previous fellow. The event wrap-up will start at 8:45, where we will reveal the leaderboard winners.
Usually the first thing that happens at the UTD campus every semester is a student org fair. But since this semester has been a little different, we couldn't really have that. That's why we are really excited to hold a virtual student org fair at 12:30, where a ton of ECS orgs are gonna be talking at virtual booths on a Discord. I really encourage all of y'all to attend this so y'all can not only network with the really great officers we partner with, but also learn how to get more involved on campus and take full advantage of the abundance of resources we all can provide you with. Along with that, we are also partnering with some orgs to hold events about everything from technical talks to discussions about personal skills. We are going to start with AIS, where they're going to talk about why AI is really cool, followed by spilling the tea with Women Who Compute, where you can ask them any questions you have about CS. We will then hear about the model minority myth from SASC and cloud computing and GCP from DSC. Our next talks are going to be about managing college life with VSys and an introduction to DeFi by Blockchain Club. This track is going to end with IEEE's talk about bridging the gap between software and hardware and basics of accessibility with Girls Who Code.
Our first event for our last track is our Minecraft contest, where you are raced to build a Halloween-themed build. It will be followed by a Kahoot on GitHub, which will test and sharpen the GitHub essentials needed for our workshops. OSEM will host Scribblio with custom words relating to the LGBT and STEM fields with their own prize. Next, the Society of Women Engineers will host Jeopardy, also with their own prize, about engineering, female STEM leaders, and SWE. Tune into Cooking with Willie, in which he will be attempting to make 6 meals in 60 minutes. We will wrap up the day with trivia with Skills USA. With so many options, I have no doubt everyone will find at least one event they will enjoy.
So now that you guys have seen what our schedule of events are, we'd like to introduce you to our fantastic keynote speaker for this event. Her name is Arocha Montez, and I'm going to let her speak a little bit about herself and take it away.
Thank you, everyone. I'm really excited to be here and really impressed by all the program that you guys have put together, and kudos to everyone who is attending this event. So my name is Rocio Montes, and I am a staff software engineer at Intuit, makers of TurboTax, QuickBooks, and Mint. There, I lead the open source office and the inner source initiatives at Intuit. I create automation, tooling, dashboards in order to make those two initiatives successful. So today I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit of my perspective of open source and why I think it's important for you as students. And then I know that we have the Q&A where you're going to be able to ask me anything. So now let me see about presenting my slides. Here we go. Okay. So, let's see here. Are you able to see my slides?
Yep, we're able to see your slides.
Perfect. All right. So pretty much, I wanted to call out what makes an open source project. Previously the speakers explained to you what is open source, but really I want to make sure that you guys are aware that open source is going to be everywhere in the corporate environment. Once you start your jobs and once you go out into, the real world outside of school. An open source project is made by obviously the code, but there is also a community. And that is a very important aspect about open source. You will belong to a community. You will be part of that community. And obviously there's always a brand aspect to an open source project, the logo, the way that it's promoted on social media, the way that the documentation is. So different aspects there. Organizations worldwide are incorporating open source methodologies into the way they build and ship software now. And I have seen that change on the corporate world, especially at Intuit, where every time we're creating a new tool, every time we're creating a new project, we first stop and think about, can these be open source? So it is very important for you as a student who will be joining the corporate world to know about open source, to have experience with open source. Because let me tell you, you will be using open source projects in your day-to-day. There is one new term that now it's becoming very popular, and that is inner source. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but I definitely encourage you to go and look it up. Pretty much inner source brings the learnings of the open source environment, of the open source community into the corporate environment. So that means that the principles of open source are that everything is pretty much open. You can contribute to code in any project. You should document your project correctly. Well, all of the principles go inside the corporate environment to make sure that any code that is written in the company's ecosystem can be available to any of the engineers that work inside that company. This is actually making sure that, engineers in a company can deliver more quickly to their customers. So, for example, a difference is that open source lives on github.com, which is what we all have access to. But at Intuit, inner source will belong into github.intuit.com, which means our enterprise instance of GitHub. So I think it is important for you as a student, when you're doing interviews, when you're going out to look for a job, for you to know what inner source is and how it relates to open source, because it's now pretty much a very hot subject in the industry. Open source involvement, obviously, like I mentioned, you will be involved, whether you like it or not. When you start a job, you will be using open source projects, projects like VS Code, Flutter, Kubernetes. These are all open source projects that you will be using in your day-to-day. So it's very important that you guys get involved with it. You could also contribute to a project, or you can create a project from scratch, right? And share it with the community. I definitely want to call out that even though when we talk about open source, we always talk about coding, right? Okay, you're coding on an issue, you're fixing an issue, but I would like to call out that there are many ways in which you can contribute to open source that is not necessarily coding. If you like designing, well, there are many projects that have no logos, that have no brand, and the documentation is messy, it doesn't have nice fonts, it doesn't have nice organization. So if you have an eye for that, a lot of the open source project maintainers are going to be really grateful if you help them out. If you like writing, the documentations and some of the open source projects are a little embarrassing. So if you have that skill about composing and grammar and how to really make documentation sound nice, then that's also a valuable skill that open source projects are looking at. If you like organizing, then you could help out triage the issues in an open source project. usually there are many duplicating issues on the open source projects. People have, comment and then forgotten about giving back a response. So if you can help move along those issues, that is also greatly appreciated. And of course, if you like to code, then you can, grab someone and help them contribute to open source, or you can help out with code reviews. Everyone can comment on a PR. It doesn't mean that you're going to approve it or merge it, but you could, for sure, give some guidelines. With all that said, open source is definitely a community, and it will be very useful for you to get involved when you are in the corporate environment. But there are also engineering benefits that we get when we participate in open source. You will definitely get opportunities. You will learn about opportunities beyond your day job. I have heard a lot of my friends that have gotten job offers because they had contributed to a project and they were approached by that maintainer. You will be part of a greater coding community. I mentioned community. It's a very important keyword when we talk about open source. There are meetups, there are talks, there is this whole group that really have passion about open source. So you will become part of that community. You will increase your understanding of good software practices. Being exposed to different coding styles, being exposed to different ways of coding, it's definitely going to increase your craft. And obviously, it's an opportunity to promote your personal brand. As an employer, when I'm looking for new hires, I always check out their GitHub account. I always go ahead and see what type of projects they have they contributed to other open source project, how is their coding style, and all of that lives on github.com. So make sure that always you have a good profile that can show your coding skills. There are challenges. All of that sounds really nice. You'll become part of a community, just go ahead and contribute. But let's be real and make sure that we all talk about that there are open source challenges for sure, right? We all underestimate our abilities. We all have that imposter syndrome where we're saying, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. I'm not going to know. But you just got to go ahead and try and contribute to open source. Try and find those issues that are easy. Some projects even want them to help you. They want you to help them writing tests, even one test, and then you would have already crossed that that hump to contribute. Don't forget to read the documentation. It's very important. A documentation in the projects tells you what are the rules of engagement with that project. We all have excuses. We are busy. We have too many finals, too many projects. Procrastination is a big issue, but make it a goal. Make it something that you really wanna do. So Hacktoberfest, it's a great opportunity to do that. At Intuit, this is our second year that we are participating. So definitely take advantage of October. You get rewards not only from Hacktoberfest, but you also get rewards from different companies. Many companies post what are going to be their rewards. So Microsoft and Google and Facebook, they all put out what rewards you can get by contributing to their open source projects. In this case, I'll show you about Intuit. You can find the projects that are participating in Hacktoberfest on our open source site, opensource.intuit.com, and you will find projects like Argo, Auto, Car Parts, Karate, that all have issues labeled with Hacktoberfest and ready for you to go ahead and contribute. I do want to call out that we do have a lot of women maintainers at Intuit, and it's something that we are very proud of. Usually, the percentage of female contributions in open source is 6%. At Intuit, we have 23%. So for those of you out there who are looking for different, a different perspective, or to, get to know these amazing female engineers, this is a good chance for you to come to talk to them through the code, through the issues. So I'm going to end with some resources that are going to be helpful for you. I can go through them. The first one is look up open source guides. These are really, really easy and fun guides about open source. So just look that up. Open source guides is gonna come up. Hacktoberfest, the Hacktoberfest site also has a section for beginners. So if you just go to the Hacktoberfest site on resources and you scroll down, there is this section for beginners, and you can find a lot of links that are going to be really helpful and let you know how to start with that first contribution. And then finally, if you're looking to contribute to Hacktoberfest projects, please check out our Intuit open source projects. And by going to this tiny URL, Intuit Hacktoberfest, it will take you to this Medium blog post, and you will, have links to issues that you can participate in Hacktoberfest, and most importantly, fill out this form so that you can get your rewards. Intuit is giving $50 to someone who completes the Hacktoberfest challenge, and that is 4 pull requests to any of the Intuit open source projects. It doesn't have to be the same project, but as long as you contribute to 4 pull requests and fill it out in the form, we'll send you a $50 gift card to the gift card of your choice. And there's that. Thank you so much again for having me. You guys are on the right track if you are already thinking about open source and contributing to open source. So let's connect if you have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much for presenting. We're actually going to have people hop on to Zoom for questions right after. So to everyone listening, I just dropped the link in our YouTube live stream. If you go join there, we'll also be there in just a minute, and we're excited to see you. And I hope every one of y'all has an amazing day today at Hacktoberfest at every single one of the events we have. I look forward to seeing everyone there. Bye, everyone.